Mai Bistritz. Left Munich at 8:35 p.m. on the 1st of May, arriving at Vienna early next morning. Should have arrived at 6:46, but train was an hour late. Budapest seems a wonderful place, from the glimpse which I got of it from the train and the little I could walk through the streets. I feared to go very far from the station, as we had arrived late and would start as near the correct time as possible. The impression I had was that we were leaving the west and entering the east. The most western of splendid bridges over the Danube, which is here of noble width and depth, took us among the traditions of Turkish rule. We left in pretty good time and came after nightfall to Klausenburg. Here I stopped for the night at the Hotel Royal. I had for dinner, or rather supper, a chicken done up some way with red pepper, which was very good, but thirsty. Get recipe for Mina. I asked the waiter, and he said it was called paprika Händel, and that, as it was a national dish, I should be able to get it anywhere along the Carpathians. I found my smattering of German very useful here. Indeed, I don't know how I should be able to get on without it. Having had some time at my disposal when in London, I had visited the British Museum and made search among the books and maps in the library regarding Transylvania. It had struck me that some foreknowledge of the country was desirable. I find that the district he named is in the extreme east of the country, just on the borders of 3 states, Transylvania, Moldavia, and Bukovina, in the midst of the Carpathian Mountains, one of the wildest and least-known portions of Europe. I was not able to light on any map or work giving the exact locality of the Castle Dracula, as there are no accurate maps of this country as yet to compare with our own Ordnance Survey maps. But I found that Bistritz, the post town named by Count Dracula, is a fairly well-known place. I shall enter here some of my notes, as they may refresh my memory when I talk over my travels with Mina. In the population of Transylvania, there are 4 distinct nationalities: Saxons in the south, and mixed with them the Wallachs, who are the descendants of the Dacians, Magyars in the west, and Sekeles in the east and north. I read that every known superstition in the world is gathered into the horseshoe of the Carpathians, as if it were the center of some sort of imaginative whirlpool. If so, my stay may be very interesting. 4th May. The impression I had yesterday was confirmed today as I traveled through the country. It is a lovely land. On the east and west are lofty hills whose sides are covered with forests of oak and beech, while here and there are green slopes of grass and corn. The road runs jaggedly up and down, with occasional steep descents and sudden rises. Every now and then, I came across a little village or a cluster of houses, with the steep roofs, topping gables, and long descending eaves of the German settlers. The women looked pretty, except when you got near them, but they were very clumsy about the feet. They wore quaint waistcoats and jackets, with broad belts of colored leather and high boots. The hair was thickly plaited and hung down the backs. The strangest thing of all were the elderly women, who wore very large belts, nearly a foot wide, all studded with little ornaments, and with lots of straps and buckles attached. They were picturesque, but did not strike me as specially healthful. As the evening fell, I reached the Hotel Crown in Bistritz, where I had been directed. It was a clean and comfortable hotel, with all the usual rooms in an old continental inn. The landlord greeted me with much courtesy, and I felt my loneliness disappear. When I handed him the letter addressed to me by Count Dracula, his face lit up. "Ah, a friend of the Count's," he exclaimed. "We have been expecting you. The coach will leave for Bukovina at sunrise tomorrow. He has ordered everything to be prepared." He then gave me supper, and I went to bed. 5 May. I had for breakfast more paprika hendel, and after that I made ready for the coach. It was a bright morning, and the sun shone down from the blue sky. The streets were full of people in the quaint peasant dress. The horses were harnessed, and the driver, a picturesque fellow in his sheepskin coat, arranged the luggage. There was a great deal of fussing and talking among the people, all of whom were looking at me with pity in their eyes. I could hear many whispers. One old lady came up to me and said in German, "Do you know where you are going?" "Yes," I replied, "to Count Dracula's castle." She crossed herself and said, "That is a terrible journey. May God preserve you." She then asked me if I knew the day. I said that I did. It was St. George's Eve. She shrank back and then came forward again and took my hand. She begged me not to go, or at least to wait until the next day. I asked her why, but she would not answer. She merely crossed herself and murmured, "For your mother's sake." She then reached into her bag and handed me a small crucifix. I did not know what to do. It seemed so rude to refuse her gift, so I accepted it and put it around my neck. The coach started with a great cracking of whips and a chorus of shouted farewells. The road was rough, and the hills were steep. The forests became thicker and darker as we advanced. Every now and then, the driver would look back fearfully, and the other passengers kept crossing themselves. The shadows deepened as the day wore on. The mountain peaks stood out jagged and dark. Sometimes we passed a ruined castle on a crag, silhouetted against the red sky. The wind blew cold, and the wolves howled in the distance. At length we reached the Borgo Pass. The driver suddenly pulled up the horses and announced that we were at the end of our journey. I looked around in surprise, for there was no sign of a house or a person. But the driver insisted. "This is the place." Just then, a carriage drawn by 4 black horses approached. The driver, a tall man with a long beard, called out in perfect English, "The Herr Englishman?" I nodded. "Welcome to the Carpathians." The coach from Bistritz rode away quickly, almost as if fleeing. I felt a strange chill as I was helped into the new carriage. The horses were powerful and moved like shadows through the darkening landscape. The moon rose behind the jagged peaks, throwing strange silhouettes on the rocks. Sometimes the wolves would howl so close that I could feel the horses tremble. But the driver would laugh softly, a laugh that made my blood run cold. We rode on for hours. Sometimes the road narrowed until we seemed to hang over a precipice, the rocks rising like jagged teeth on either side. The driver never hesitated, guiding the horses with uncanny skill. At last, we reached a huge stone gateway. Beyond it rose a vast, ancient castle, its battlements black against the sky. A single light shone from one window high above. The carriage stopped. The driver stepped down and opened the door. "Welcome to Castle Dracula," he said. I stepped out. The great door swung open slowly, as if moved by unseen hands. A tall, thin man stood there, holding a lamp. His face was pale, with sharp white teeth that gleamed in the dim light. His eyes burned with strange intensity. "Welcome to my house," he said. "Enter freely, and of your own will."